Right. Welcome in. Welcome in, everybody. We are live. Happy Tuesday. It's been nuts this past few weeks, hasn't it? Boy, oh boy, it's been nuts. How's everything? Is the sound coming in okay? Got to make sure it's crisp. Oh wow. That's cool. Okay. Oh, there we go. That's why it was sounding like that. Now, yes, that's correct. Okay. Well, ladies and gentlemen, welcome into Trip Talk. It's good to see you guys here today. Tonight, I'm going to be talking about something I haven't normally done, but I'm going to go into the Charlie Kirk case. I'm breaking it down from my perspective and what I see and how I can't believe by any way, shape, or form the Fed Slop narrative that's out there. So I'm going to go through that and why I believe that. These dang cameras. I'm going to go through why I believe that, and I'm going to show you guys breaking it down slide by slide and with some detail too. All right. I got to go through some detail because details matter. Ladies and gentlemen, details matter. So if you guys are in the comment section, welcome into the show. You guys are welcome to chat. You guys are welcome to, please, you're encouraged to hit that like button if you guys are liking what we're talking about and want to engage with us. I encourage you guys, hit that like button, please. And by all means, make sure that you guys share. Hey, we got some cool sounds there. That's our producer, Becca. She's going to be co-hosting the show as well. So you might hear her voice pop up from time to time. That is the lovely Queen Bee. She's there. That's Becca. So, ladies and gentlemen, first things first, again, welcome in. My name is Trip. Welcome to Trip Talk, and let's dive into doing something different because we're not going to just sit around pretending like we solved the Charlie Kirk case. That's not what we're doing tonight. All right. Not from our living rooms. I'm not going to sit here and act like I'm the judge, the jury, the executioner and know everything. We're going to slow it all down. All right. Slow it the hell down is what we're going to do. We're going to slow it down and break down exactly what has been presented and why the Fed slop just doesn't seem to be resonating with a lot of us. All right. A lot of us. All right. Because, I believe that if we're paying these agencies to be doing what they're supposed to do, that's their best. They shouldn't be presenting such a sloppy narrative to which we are seeing today. All right. We're going to break that down because I'm seeing two real extremes going on with the Charlie Kirk case. I see people who automatically believe everything that the government and the Fed is telling them because it's something that they want to believe in. And then I'm also seeing people automatically believe every single conspiracy pop up just because somebody put something new online. All right. So I'm not going to do either one. I'm just going to look back at what's actually been presented by the entities and agencies that are actually building this and doing it like an actual investigation. All right. What happened? What evidence existed? Who collected the evidence? What happened to after the collection? Who possessed it? We're going to go through all of that. What conclusions can the evidence actually support? What questions are still unanswered? And there's a lot of unanswered questions like, where is Charlie? Right now, where is Charlie? That's still something that's unanswered. What conclusions can the evidence that is presented actually support? And then also we're also going to go through a couple different skeptic questions. And then I also have a kind of a little narrative story that I believe really sits really good with this case. So if you guys are interested in Charlie Kirk, if you guys are interested in the Fed Slop narrative, if you guys are interested in the narrative at all, we're going to go ahead and break this down from what I am seeing to help give you guys a little bit of insight on how most of these investigations work, what the process is. All right. Because a lot of people get lost on what the process actually is because they've never been around an investigation before. And I'm not going to try to sit here and insult anyone's intelligence tonight. All I'm going to say is, well, unless you're the official narrative, because if you're the official narrative, you've already stepped on your toes more than enough for me. So anything that I say is going to be pretty much B rated considering how sloppy y'all are moving. But that's neither here nor there. All right. We're going to go through what the official narrative actually is. All right. And we're going to break that down so you guys actually see it. All right. This isn't just going to be me, just my perspective. We're going to break down what their narrative is and then what I'm seeing through that narrative. That's how we're going to do this today. And I believe that you guys are going to have some substance or get some substance from it. All right. So we're not going to talk just narrative. We're also going to talk about receipts. So buckle up. Buckle up, ladies and gentlemen. If you guys are just tuning in, please be sure you guys hit that like button for me, please, because we're still trying to build this YouTube up. As you can see, there's not a lot of people on this channel, so I want to try to build this channel up. If you guys could do us a favor in doing that while I pull up our first set of what we're going to be showing you guys here today, as far as the slides are concerned, and what I have come up with as I've gone through. And I spent some time doing this because I believe that this is really important for you guys to see what the process is and how these things are broken down. All right, because we've heard a lot of different narratives and perspectives. Candace Owens' perspectives, specifically, how she just dog walked Andrew Wilson here recently on that debate. I mean, and if you guys watched that like I did, you guys saw how he was sweet. All I'm saying is he was not debating the OnlyFans chicks that he was used to. He came in there, he tried, but it didn't work. It just did not work. You came in there and she smoked him. And we all seen it. We all seen it. All right. So that's neither here nor there. Oh, sorry. Excuse me. He wasn't in there debating his typical style of person. I'll leave it at that. How about that? He went in there doing something that he wasn't prepared for. Let's just leave it at that. He was not prepared for that. And if you believe that he went in there prepared, I'm interested in to see how you think he performed. You can share that in the comments, because I'm having a hard time with people that are blindly saying that he won and watched the same debate that I watched. I'm gonna be honest. I'm just having I'm trying. So that's why I'm asking, okay, well, where's your substance to support why you believe he did such a good job? Because I'm not seeing it. I'm not. Because if you watch the same debate that I watched, I'm not seeing it. So that's why I'm asking you specifically, what is it that you saw in the debate if you do believe Andrew Wilson did a good job? Please go ahead and let us know in the comment section. Luna's, let's see, I'm going to get into the comment. Luna's Color says here, he was trying so hard. What does that say? He was trying so hard and she got him so good without winning and whining and dining him first. For real. For real. You didn't even have to whine and dine. Matter of fact, see, this is the part for me that I can't dismiss. And I'm going to say this just before we get into the slides, ladies and gentlemen, but I can't dismiss this part. He went on live and sit there and said, all women are retarded, but he's the one that paid $300,000 just to talk to a woman. I'm just saying, it doesn't seem like all women is retarded if that's the case. But hey, that's neither here nor there. Ladies and gentlemen. What? That's what happened. He paid the money, not me. I mean, that's just bizarre. I can't believe that that's actually what happened, ladies and gentlemen. But it is. So, ladies and gentlemen, we talk about the Charlie Kirk case. The Charlie Kirk case. A great man, Charles Kirk. Wow. I miss him already, and I didn't even know him as well as many of you probably do. And I only came on to him within literally within a few months before his assassination is when he came on my radar. And I guess it was really right around the election time is when he came on my radar. And I'm sure he came on a lot of people's radar around that time. All right. But even so, I wasn't one of those that followed his show regularly or followed him around and what it is he was doing up until this event took place. And then it made me question everything. And I mean everything. All right. So the official narrative versus the evidence trail, because if you follow the evidence trail, you're going to see a different narrative. It's only if you follow the evidence trail, you're going to conclude yourselves a completely different narrative than the official narrative. That's why it's named that way. So we're going to question everything, claim nothing. Okay. We're claiming nothing without evidence. Mr. Cash Patel, he's made a lot of claims before there was actual evidence to support certain claims. And we're going to jump into why that is so suspicious and why that bothers me when it comes to an investigation. Specifically, the FBI being involved in the first place is very, very suspicious at best. Okay? At best, I believe their involvement is suspicious at best. But that's neither here nor there. I'll get into that specifically why I believe that here as we go through this. So what we have to do, if we're looking at this from a real open perspective, what we need to do is start with the investigation, not a theory. Okay, we have to separate things like fact from allegation from inference. We build a solid timeline before assigning a narrative or a motive. Preserve originals. Document every single transfer. Verify the metadata. These are basics. Okay, these are basics when you're doing an investigation. Ask, what evidence could falsify or own the theory? A suspicious looking act is a question to investigate, but is not proof of complicity. So why do I say it like that? Just because somebody from an official suit and tie says something or questions something does not mean that that is proof that that thing happened. Okay? This is where they try to do the whole smoke and mirrors thing and break things down so you guys seem like you're too uneducated to believe what it is you are actually seeing and what it is you're actually hearing. So they bring these smoke suit and tie people up here to try to convince you that you're seeing something completely different than what it is you actually verified and saw. All right. And that to me is a problem. I don't like that. I don't like that at all. And neither should you, ladies. Where the heck is my camera at? I should be on the screen. I disappeared. I was on the screen. I switched over to the... Hold on, y'all. Give me just a second. I'm trying to figure some of this out. Uh-oh. What the heck did I do now? So that wasn't the right button.
You always messing with something. Now look at you.
I know. And see, this is what I get. It serves me right. I don't know why my camera's not there. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, as long as can you guys still hear me? Can you still hear me at least on there? But this is what's weird. It was working fine just a second ago. So here's the thing. Okay, I know why. Duh. Oops. Hold on. Duh. Dummy mistake, ladies and gentlemen. Wait one. Wait one. Dummy mistake. Dummy mistake. Oopsies. I made a mistake. I forgot. Okay. I know why I did that. I'm going to get it figured out and everything is going to roll smooth. Ladies and gentlemen, bear with me as I fix the issue to which I had just made. There we go. Can you see me now? Ha 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 ha. I should be there now. I should be around there. There. Na. Okay, we should be good. We should be good. I believe I have fixed my issue. I do believe. Okay, let's get back to it. Now that I fixed it, ladies and gentlemen, ladies and germs, let's get back to class. We have to separate fact from allegation. All right. Those are quite important features and facts when we're dealing with an investigation. All right. Take all of your leads, build a timeline. Now, if you ask me, that's exactly and precisely what Candace Owens was doing and is doing. All right. Now, Andrew Wilson had the nerve to say that what she was doing, or she didn't have to be doing what she was doing, she could stop it and be just fine. Well, that's besides the point, Mr. Wilson. I'm not sure why you even brought that point up to begin with, because you could be doing something completely different too than trying to humiliate the people that's on your podcast the way that you do and then say that you're a godly man. I'm just saying there's a different way you could be doing it and you'd be fine. You could be doing it differently and you'd be fine. You know what I'm saying? So if you want to make those points, I mean, come on now, look at yourself in the mirror too. But the reality is what Candace is doing is what nobody else is willing to do on the public platform or mainstream. That's the truth. Between her, Baron Coleman, and Ian Carroll really digging into the severity of what's actually happening versus what we're being told by the people we're paying to tell us the truth. That's the problem. And that's a problem a lot of people have when they start seeing holes that Ray Charles can see through this case and be like, well, that don't add up. If you don't know who Ray Charles is, ladies and gentlemen, I'm just going to tell you, look up who Ray Charles was to understand that reference, because if I have to explain it to you, it's not going to be as funny. But at the end of the day, those of you who do know, we know. We know Ray Charles could see right through this. Okay, so let's go to what actually happened, ladies and gentlemen. The state of Utah. This is established. You guys can verify this yourself. Look up the court documents, look up the official record, but this is what the state alleges. Charlie Kirk was assassinated, or excuse me, they say shot. Okay, key word there. The state says that Charlie Kirk was shot at UVU at about 12:23 p.m. on September 10th, 2025. Now, this is a key feature here because they're saying that he was shot. So now the state is going to have to prove that that action was what happened, because that's the charge that they're going with. Okay? Prosecutors allege that Tyler Robinson fired from a rooftop and later surrendered. Now, again, if you've watched the preliminary hearing, if you watched the details throughout this case, nowhere have we seen accurate footage or anything that displays Tyler Robinson himself specifically taking the shot or surrendering. There is no actual surrender that we have seen of him, and that's actually documented, and it was not brought up in the case like that. So we have to actually look through what is happening here. The prosecutors allege Tyler Robinson fired from the rooftop and then later surrendered. Okay? Again, this is what the state is alleging. The state is alleging that police have recovered a bolt-action .30-06 rifle near the escape route of Tyler Robinson. Again, they are saying that it was Tyler Robinson who took a shot from the rooftop from a .30-06 bolt-action rifle and shot Charlie Kirk. That's what the state is alleging happened. The state is alleging, and they have charging documents that support this. The charging documents allege that the DNA consistent with Tyler Robinson was found on the rifle. What the heck is that? Was found on the rifle trigger and other items. Now, what they failed to mention, and if you did watch the hearing, it did say that Tyler Robinson was the most degraded DNA on the rifle. That's a huge piece. That means other people could have handled the rifle and their DNA could have been on there, which is consistent because he was not the only DNA on the rifle. So Robinson is being charged, but he has not been convicted because, of course, we still have to have the trial. So if the state is alleging that these things happen, they're going to have to prove that these things took place at that time by Tyler Robinson with said weapon. Okay, now that's going to be very, very hard to do considering the evidence that we have seen. Considering the wound that we've seen. And we'll get into all of that stuff later. I'm not going to show any gory images or nothing like that on this. I promise you I will not do that. But it just leaves you to question some things, okay? If the state is alleging these things happen, that means that they are going to have to prove that those things happen because, of course, what they're trying to do is what I believe is put a man to death. So they're going to have to prove that it was definitely said person that did said thing with said tool at said time. And they have to prove that without a shadow of a doubt. If there's any reasonable doubt, then he cannot be convicted on those charges. That's right. Okay, that's what I said. I said they have to, I'm going to break this down. The state is going to have to prove without a shadow of a doubt that this happened. The problem is, because that's going to be impossible, it leaves reasonable doubt. And if there's any reasonable doubt, they can't put this man to death. The jury's going to have reasonable doubt. If people are saying on live TV that there's only a 75% chance based on what they've seen, there's reasonable doubt. There's reasonable doubt. That's 25% reasonable doubt. That means that you cannot put this man to death. It's real simple. It's real simple. You cannot. So they have to prove there is no way, shape, or any way possibility that it happened any other way. That's what they're going to have to prove. That's why I say without a shadow of a doubt. They have to prove there can be no doubts. That's their job. They have to prove it with no doubts. So the jury can say, yes, fry him or hang him or whatever it is they do in Utah. Lethal injection or whatever the case is. If there's any doubt, they cannot proceed with that because that means it may not have happened that way. That's basic court, y'all. That's so basic that I don't even know why we're proceeding with this case this way. Okay. Now, here's where things get really funny to me. And if you have followed the guy, his name is Baron Coleman. I'm not sure if you guys have followed Baron Coleman at all, but if you do, or if you don't, I challenge you and I encourage you to do so. I know a lot of people are talking about Candace Owens because she is she is hot right now. Candace is on fire. I got it. But if you want a really good analysis and breakdown of every single piece of this case, I would tune into Baron Coleman because he, not only was he an attorney before, but he's looking at these and asking questions a little bit deeper because when it comes to the process of these things, you have to understand how court actually works, how an investigation actually works. And when people start shifting things around and they just say, well, that's what we're doing. Well, we have to go back. Well, is that normal practice for he does things like that. He breaks it down so well. And he's pretty funny too. So please, he's one of my favorite on YouTube right now. His name is Baron Coleman. I encourage you guys look into what he's talking about because he can break this stuff down lawyerly way better than I can without the, extra me getting heated and pissed off and stuff like that. He is like a really good example of how this should be. So tune into Baron Coleman, ladies and gentlemen. All right. So real quick on this right here is why I specifically get so upset and so I get so mad because I believe that the feds, the agencies that we are paying a lot of money to investigate and keep us safe, should not be fiddling around and playing with us this way. I don't. And it really makes me think, why are the feds, why is the FBI specifically involved so fast with this case, right? And they did a really good PR job in the beginning at trying to show up and act like the heroes when it comes to this case. Now, if you go back a year and you think about the aftermath of what happened, we were flooded, whether it was mainstream media, social media, with different influencers, different important people, to include Turning Point USA, putting on the best of the best showcase that they can to make Charlie Kirk look great. And at the same time, they were taking money from innocent people who truly felt that Erica Kirk and her kids needed to be taken care of. So they were donating a lot of what they could to support Turning Point and Erica. Okay. Tucker Carlson says, he said it many times, that he donated, I believe, up close to $6 million to Erica to take care of the kids and things like that. But there are still people out there that are saying that Candace Owens should be giving away that money that she got from Andrew Wilson to Erica Kirk and the kids and stuff. And it's just wild to me how they can completely try to change the narrative and spin things and change it up on you to get your attention, to take away from the fact that the feds were involved to begin with. And we should be questioning, why are they involved to begin with? Okay. Fast federal involvement itself is not evidence of a cover up, but it does bring up suspicion at best. And the reason I say that is because at the end of the day, I know Charlie Kirk was a great figure. He was a great man. He was very popular, but he was not in any political or official position at all. He was the founder and president of Turning Point USA, but that is a nonprofit organization. So at the end of the day, when we look at the case itself, according to their narrative, not my narrative, okay, according to the official narrative, one man was assassinated by one bullet with one gun by one person. Now, I'm not sure why the federal or the FBI was so quick to be there to help support this, but that is not consistent with how these things work. It's not at all. It's not consistent on how this process works. So let's get into that part, ladies and gentlemen. Why was the FBI involved so fast? All right, because here's what we need to know, and you need to know if you don't understand how the FBI works. Okay, the FBI is there to assist in those agencies that are dealing with federal crimes and whatnot. If there is a major federal crime, the FBI can take jurisdiction. But in this case, the state is alleging that one round was fired from one person out of one gun and only one person was killed. That is not consistent with FBI being involved unless it was like a federal judge or a legislator or something like that. Somebody in an official federal position. Okay? Charlie Kirk was not in an official federal position. So the FBI can provide evidence response, digital forensics, intelligence gathering, victim services, manhunt support, which is something that Kash Patel says right away. They were helping with this 33-hour manhunt. Okay? Support this manhunt that happened in 33 hours. That's from Kash Patel. So they're supposed to coordinate with the local law enforcement agencies that are there, to include the State Bureau of Investigation. Now, if the State Bureau of Investigation is requesting FBI assistance, great. That's fine. But at the end of the day, it's awfully weird for the State Bureau of an Investigation to include the Utah police and all the sister agencies that were there to need to take hold of one person firing one round and hurting one person. It's not consistent with FBI involvement. It's not. I know this because we just had a mass shooting here last month in Seattle. And the FBI is not involved at all. And they got a headquarters right there in downtown Seattle. They're not involved at all. I don't even think the State Bureau of Investigation here is involved in that one. I don't think so. So that just goes to show you the FBI does not automatically just get involved because there was a shooting. That's not how these things work. Now, let me break this back for you guys. If there was a mass casualty and it was done by, let's say, some kind of explosive device and a mass casualty at the same event, then we would have more of an opportunity to believe the FBI would be involved because bombs go to the federal level, especially if it's a mass casualty. But that's not what happened here. That's not what happened here. The FBI publicly said that it was working in coordination with local law enforcement partners. The sharper question I have to ask is who had scene command? Who was the incident or the scene commander? Who collected each of the items? And which agency maintained custody at each stage? Because yes, there are different stages during their investigation and all of that. There's different stages and different people will have what's called the incident command. Different people will be in charge during the investigation. Okay? What I'm seeing, what seems to be, and I'm alleging here, it seems to be the feds were involved in a cover-up. This is what it seems like. I'm not saying that's what they did. I'm just saying it seems like they were there to mess things up because it's not consistent with the behavior that goes on with most law enforcement agencies. It's not. The chain of custody itself was sloppy at best. Sloppy at best. And if you don't know what chain of custody is, I'm going to break that down for you guys too, because I believe that's a key component, a very important key component to what happened here. To what happened here. Okay. Now, real quick, because I know I've been talking a lot about this and I'm not trying to bore you. I'm not trying to bore you with redundant information or things that you think I'm just talking out of my butt. Okay. When it comes to an investigation, I want you guys to think about certain things like why certain actions were allowed to happen, like removing evidence from a crime scene. Why evidence was returned to people like Erica Kirk. I also want you guys to question and really think about this. Why are the individuals that are closest to Charlie Kirk not being questioned in reference or any kind of relative fashion, investigated as being participated in this event? It's really wild to me. It's really, really wild to me. And I'm going to break this down for you guys real quick because I believe that you guys might understand this a little bit better if I break this down to gas station logic. If I break this down to gas station logic, yeah, I did. Oh, there we go. Okay. If I break this down to gas station logic for a second, maybe, just maybe this will make sense for you. So if you've ever worked at a gas station or have ever been to a gas station, a service station here in the United States of America or across the world, you have probably done this thing like pay with cash. And if you pay with cash, especially nowadays, you know that gas stations or most other places will store the cash in a safe. And that safe gets picked up by armed guards at least once a night or every other night, depending on whatever the rotation is, and taken to the bank under secure, blah, 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 blah. They protect the money, right? We all know that. But we also know that there are certain people that work within the establishment that have access to that safe. They can either put money in or take money out, have the codes to the safe. That can be anyone from the manager, the general manager, to also regular employees. Anyone who has access to that safe. Do you understand what I'm saying here? anyone who has access to that safe can put money in or take money out. All right. Now that we all understand that part of class, let's say somebody comes in there and robs the safe in the middle of the night. They break the safe out of the wall of the gas station, right? They break it out. I believe that if the detectives and the investigating agencies that are there, as they are questioning those who are on shift during the event, I believe that a solid question the investigators would ask would be, especially to the managers, is there anybody else who has access to the safe or knowledge about the safe? And could you provide me information to how I can contact them? Anybody, especially within a year of working there, that has access or had access to said safe and the conditions of the safe would be subject to questioning, subject to investigation. Now, that means if you worked there for 6 months, got fired, but you were assistant manager and put things in the money or in the safe a couple times, you would be subject to questioning. Not saying that you're guilty of committing a crime. However, because you had prior knowledge of the conditions of the safe and how it operates, it would go to question because you were in proximity at some point within that safe. It's really simple investigation stuff. So when you tell me instantly that none of the closest people to Charlie Kirk are involved in any way, shape, or form, and I have to just trust you, bro. Trust me, bro. We're the FBI. I'm telling you. None of these people at all. It was Tyler Robinson and Tyler Robinson himself. Nobody else helped him at all. It was only Tyler Robinson. I have to ask a lot of questions. Are you sure? Are you sure? And an organization as big as Charlie Kirk, with all of those people and all of these weird things that happened during the event, you're telling me that I'm supposed to ignore all of the weird things and just trust you, bro? Erica and all of those people are not involved. It was Tyler Robinson alone, the trans furry gunman who killed him with the 30-06 bolt-action rifle on the top of a roof. That's what I'm supposed to. Okay, I'm not buying it. I'm not buying it. And you want to know why? You know what? I don't even have to tell you specifics on why on that piece, because you guys can see the holes in that story. You can see the holes in that story. I'm supposed to be believing what the state said. Again, the state is saying that Charlie Kirk was shot at UVU on September 10th around 12:23 p.m. The state is saying that. Prosecutors are alleging that Tyler Robinson fired from a rooftop with a 30-06 bolt-action rifle and then later escaped and surrendered. That is what the state is saying. Okay. That's what the state is saying. I don't buy it. On the top of the Losey Center, the rooftop of the Losey Center. I don't buy it. Losey Center. That's what I said. I said Losey. I swear I said Losey. Did I say Losey? I probably said Losey. So, again, let's talk about chain of custody, ladies and gentlemen. This piece right here is my favorite piece because this is how I know the FBI was still messing around with things they shouldn't have been messing with. Because again, whoever had incident command on the ground incident commander, that could be the UVU police, the sheriff's office, whoever was in charge on the ground should have been securing the evidence. Period. Point blank, period. They should have put a perimeter and started securing evidence. People that were still there are subject to questioning because they were letting people in and out for whatever reason. I don't understand that. But when it comes to chain of custody, this is how this works. You collect it. You seal it, you label it, you log it, you transfer it, you store it, you log it again, you analyze if you need to, and disclose where it's at, what time it was put where, and who had access to it. It's really easy. That is basic level law enforcement, any investigating, your basic security. If you go through a security course and they tell you how we're going to collect evidence, you collect the evidence, you're going to put it in the evidence sealed bag, you're going to label it, this is the bolt action rifle. And then you're going to put that in the log. I have evidence, exhibit B, 121, here's your little code. And then you're going to take that and say it is in custody of officer such and such of the evidence collection department at UVU police department or whatever department it is that has custody of that evidence. Okay. So we will know specifically where that piece went and who had hands on it last. That's called chain of custody. Okay. Every item, every single piece. Okay, that means that people should not be opening up cameras and taking out SD cards and putting it in their pocket and then giving evidence. That's not how that works. That's not how that works. I believe who was that person? Do you remember the name of that person that took the SD card out? What was the name of that guy? He took the SD card out of the camera and put it in his pocket. What was the name of that guy? Candace Terrell Farnsworth. That's the guy's name. Terrell Farnsworth. I believe at minimum, he should be charged with tampering with evidence. Am I wrong? At minimum, he should be charged with tampering with evidence at the scene of a crime. Anybody that is messing with things that was there, specifically recording, come on now, recording devices, at the scene of the crime, he's caught on tape removing SD cards and putting it in his pocket and walking away before the evidence was collected by law enforcement agency. Now, regardless of later on, he provided a flash drive with cropped information on it. That is beside the point. That is not how this process works. That is not how these things work. Every item that was in that crime scene, every single item is evidence. The chair Charlie was sitting on is evidence. It shouldn't have been moved. The chair itself should not have been moved. Every single piece, who had it, when, how long they had it, where did they put it, where is it stored, why is this collected as evidence, and in what condition. And here's the kicker. Evidence like this is supposed to be stored until the trial's complete. At a minimum. And I'm supposed to believe that it's okay for people to be taking SD cards out of cameras. Shirts and necklaces are taken off of Charlie Kirk and given back to Erica Kirk. I'm supposed to believe all of that is okay. But then a copy on a flash drive is useful for evidence? I'm sorry, I'm not buying it. I'm not buying it. I'm sorry. You mean to tell me that I could have video evidence, but I'm going to go ahead and alter it and copy it on a flash drive and give you the flash drive, not the original camera nor the original SD card. And that's okay to be. How is that? How could that not even be deemed as tampering? This is what I don't understand. This is why I'm saying these things are not consistent with how an investigation would typically work. That perimeter would be blocked off. Officers would be pushing people off. If you are not a law enforcement agent or an agent or somebody who is investigating this case, you're not allowed in that perimeter. Period. Period. It doesn't matter if you're TPUSA or not. You are not allowed within that cordon. Period. because there are people who will tamper with things after the fact to make it look differently. I'm sorry, I am not buying it. I'm not buying it. We already know there were officers on the ground. We know there were officers on the ground. There is no reason. This is basic level law enforcement stuff. This is basic security training stuff. You establish a perimeter. You do not let anybody within that perimeter that is not relevant to investigating the case. Period. Period. Terrell Farnsworth and all of those homies don't get to just come through and be like, no, we're here for this event, so we get to come through and take this case. That's not how that works. The basic security guard should have detained that man from taking something out of the camera after this happened. Period. Period. So when things like this just happen, and nobody but the cameras saw this person do it, and nothing's happening. Is he allowed to tamper with things like that on the scene of a crime? That's not consistent with any kind of law enforcement I've ever seen in my life. I have never in my life seen any law enforcement agency allow some random civilian to come within their perimeter and start messing with evidence and put it in their pocket. I've never in my life seen it. Never. I have never seen it. Not in real life. And this did happen in real life. It was caught on camera. Candace showed us the video today of the man taking the shit out at the camera, put it in his pocket, and then get on the phone. We got to see it with our own eyes. And then the story that they're going to tell us is that he took out the SD card because he was concerned because people were evil. But he didn't get the SD card out of any of the other cameras. It was only that one. This is why we have concerns. This is why we cannot believe what you guys in the federal or the UVU or whoever narrative is pushing. We can't believe it. It's not consistent with basic security or law enforcement practices. It's not. It's not. Because when we talk about chain of custody, there is zero reason even the necklace that was on Charlie's neck should have went back to Erica Kirk. Period. There is zero reason it should have went back to her. There is zero reason that anything should have not been collected and sealed in evidence. Well, yeah, all right. So I was asked to go into a little bit more detail about why the feds should not be involved. So again, I brought up the reasoning earlier before. Federal involvement. Let me go back here just so you guys can see and understand. Federal involvement. Okay. The FBI specifically. All right. They can provide evidence, response, digital forensics. They can assist your agencies, but they do not automatically just get to take over jurisdiction. They cannot. Unless it is a major federal crime, like, let's say there is a bomb that would have took out multiple people in that same event. Then we could have had federal involvement from the beginning, because a bomb would be classified more of a domestic terrorism type than it would be for one individual taking out one individual with one round and one weapon. So it's very, very inconsistent. The number two thing that damn it. The number two thing that stands out to me about the federal involvement and why it happened so fast was that typically, if there's only one round, one person hurt? Why would the feds be involved to begin with at all? Because last I checked, multiple law enforcement agencies are required and they are trained to deal with gun violence. That's what they investigate regularly when it comes to major crimes and things like that. So I'm not sure why the FBI would want to be involved so fast unless there was some kind of prior notice to this already happening or going to happen and they were on standby. Again, this is my speculation because it seems to me that they are moving so fast. Do we remember the time frame between the Big Bang and feds being on the ground? Is there a way you could find that for me, Becca? Okay, so it was less than 20 minutes, I believe, that the feds were involved from the time of the Big Bang until the feds were on the ground. That's inconsistent with basic law enforcement investigations. It's inconsistent. Specifically when there was reports coming and it was only one person, again, was hurt with one round. So here's my question. The FBI quickly said that they were working with local law enforcement. Now, ladies and gentlemen, here is why I believe, this is why I believe the FBI was involved so quickly, and I need you guys to hear me out. I believe the FBI was involved so quickly because the governor of Utah made a statement publicly and said that this is a political assassination. Okay? Now, when that was said, that could be determined by the FBI that a political assassination requires federal investigative help. So, Becca and I, we looked into that. We wanted to know because we were curious. Why is the feds involved? We were really curious. Why are the feds involved when it comes to one bullet by one man and only one person was hurt? That's not consistent with law enforcement. And they were the ones that found the weapon. Don't forget that part. The feds were the one that said, go check that area over there again. After they had multiple bomb dogs and different kind of canines go through there, different officers do the police sweep and whatnot and search the area. So what the feds are trying to display is that every single officer that was on the ground was incompetent until the feds showed up and said, go check that again. Okay. I'm not buying it because I have a canine. I work canine. I know for a fact that they can smell everything. Residue, especially if they're trained to pick up on firearm and gun residue. You're not going to convince me that none of the dogs picked up on it. You're not going to convince me that none of the canines picked up on it. There are dogs that can smell residue up to a week later after it's been rained on and everything. And you're going to tell me that it was stashed in the woods right after it was fired and no canines, 0 canines picked up on it. But then the FBI shows up and tells an officer to go check over there. And mysteriously, there's the weapon. Okay. Even though they already checked that area thoroughly. Okay. Okay, I don't buy it. I'm not buying it. You shouldn't buy it either. You shouldn't buy it either. But that is what happened. That is what they are pushing. That's not what I'm pushing. That's what the Federal Bureau of Investigation is pushing. Okay, not me. I find it appalling that they're even going through with this. I find it appalling. So back to what I was saying about why is the Federal Bureau of Investigation involved at all when it comes to one man being shot by one bullet, and that's the narrative that they're going with. Either they know something else happened and they need to cover it up, or they're going to classify the governor saying that this is a political assassination, and that is the request for federal involvement. Because when Becca and I looked this up, we were looking into why is the federal involved in a case like this. And there is a little piece in there that says political assassinations or political something like that, the Federal Bureau of Investigation can investigate and assist, blah, 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 blah. However, doesn't normally happen unless requested. So I believe that the only reason that the feds were involved was because they took it as a political assassination by the request or by the statements from Utah. But the timing of that press conference is after the fact. Okay? Keep that in mind. Their involvement was within 20 minutes. FBI involvement was within 20 minutes of the Big Bang. Within 20 minutes, the FBI were on the ground. Okay? Now that statement that was made came, well, that was well after 20 minutes. So I assume somewhere along the line, the governor took Charlie Kirk's assassination as a political assassination and therefore are requesting FBI assistance. That's the only piece that I could logically try to fathom on why they're involved so quickly when it comes to just one person, one bullet, one person being hurt. It's the only thing that kind of makes any kind of little bit of sense. Okay? They requested for help because it was a political assassination. Therefore, the FBI gets involved. That's the only thing that seems to be kind of consistent with why they would be involved. But the timing does not add up. The timing does not add up specifically because there's not even an FBI headquarters or an FBI outpost in that area. There's not. There's not. Typically, throughout the state, there are different outposts and headquarters areas that the FBI will post up in. Okay, federal buildings and stuff like that. And they'll take up, office space or a floor or something like that, typically. And if something happens, like for instance, we have an FBI building in Seattle. That's at the federal building. If something happens down here in my county, I live in Thurston County. If something happens down here in Thurston County that is big enough for the FBI to get involved with, we're going to call the Seattle branch office, and they're going to have to send somebody from Seattle all the way over here to come investigate. Okay? Now, with traffic, that's at least an hour plus drive. Or excuse me, without traffic, that's an hour plus drive. All right? Without traffic, that's over an hour drive. All right? With traffic, I don't even want to tell you how long it can take to get from Seattle to Thurston County. You guys could imagine with traffic. I've been stuck in there for 3 + 4 hours trying to get by. I used to work at the Boeing facility in Seattle and travel here every day. It's a nightmare. But again, it's the feds. They can run lights and sirens or take a federal helicopter or whatnot. You're right. They could. But still, the timing would still take a little bit longer because you can't just instantly snap your fingers and fly over. The difference was there were already FBI agents within, I believe it was in 15 minutes or so after the Big Bang, which means that they had to be in the area for whatever reason. I'm confused to what that reason is and why they were in the area to begin with. I really am. I don't get it. It doesn't make sense to me. It doesn't make sense to me. Why were they already in the area? Why were they already in the area? I want to know. I think that deserves question. What was the FBI doing in the area already? I believe that those are solid questions. I'm sorry, ladies and gentlemen. If you don't believe so, oh well. I talked to you guys about the camera and the SD card situation. I do not believe that person, Terrell Farnsworth, I do not believe that he provided the State Bureau of Investigation with the original footage that was in that camera. That's what I'm saying. For the record, I do not believe that TPUSA contractor Terrell Farnsworth provided the State Bureau of Investigation or any law enforcement agency with the original video that was on that SD card. I do not believe he did. I believe I don't have any evidence that he did this specifically. This is just me alleging. I believe that Terrell Farnsworth or somebody took the video from the SD card, cropped it, put it on a flash drive, and gave that to the law enforcement agent. That's what I believe. Because it's not consistent with any of the camera angles that have been shown from any of Charlie Kirk's prior video seminars and conferences that he done. None of it. None of it. Every single one shows the wide angle, shows the floor, except for the copy that was given to law enforcement from Terrell Farnsworth. Now, again, this is why I believe he should, at a minimum, be at least charged with tampering with evidence at the scene of a crime. Because we saw, right after the Big Bang took place, Terrell Farnsworth tampering with evidence at the scene of a crime. Every single thing that is in that vicinity is evidence. The chair is evidence. That table is evidence. The microphone cable that was attached to the microphone Charlie was holding is evidence. The goddamn tent that he was sitting under is evidence. Every single piece, the blade of grass that was in that area is evidence. Okay? Every single piece that is in that scene is evidence. And I do not believe that law enforcement would be allowing private civilians that are not relevant to the investigation after the Big Bang took place is going to allow a random civilian to start opening cameras and taking out SD cards. And then we're supposed to be convinced that the copy that he gave was the original when we can clearly see it's cropped. So if it's cropped, we know it's not the original. It's not the original. The original is going to be a wide angle, period. The original is going to be a wide angle. So if the official narrative, if they're going to show us a cropped angle, I can't believe that it wasn't tampered with. I cannot. But don't take it from me. David Hull, all right? David Hull was one of the investigators. He testified and he said during his testimony that Terrell Farnsworth provided video copies via a flash drive and electronic delivery. Wow. Now, when we're talking about the FBI, we're talking about they have a machine that they can just plug a cable into that machine or whatever the device is and extract every bit of data that is on there. We already know that that is true. All right. I don't believe in any way, shape, or form that a flash drive with cropped images and video on there would be sufficient as evidence, but somehow it got in. Somehow it got in. Okay. Ray Charles can see through that shit, but okay. Okay, you want me to believe that? I believe the video was manipulated. We can't jump from copy provided to video was manipulated. There is missing pieces here. Why did this SD card get taken out? And why was the SD card not given to law enforcement? Instead, a different electronic storage device was given to law enforcement with a different cropped copy of a video. And we're supposed to use that as evidence? Now, I'm sorry now, but come on now. Come on now. Sorry. Okay. Okay. But then again, the originals, we already know the originals were not preserved during the chain of custody, like I showed you guys. Because again, what did we learn about chain of custody, ladies and gentlemen? You have to collect it, seal it, label it, log it, transfer it, store it, analyze, and disclose. That is the basic for your chain of custody, ladies and gentlemen. So again, why is it that Terrell Farnsworth will take an SD card out of camera, put it in his pocket, call somebody or text somebody up on the phone? We all saw it today. Don't act like y'all didn't see it. Y'all seen it too. Text somebody on the phone and then think that it's going to fly. Think that it's going to fly. We got the testimony. David Hall testified and said you provided them something different than what you took out the damn camera. You provided them something different than what was taken out of the camera. That was his testimony. And y'all want us to believe. Y'all want us to believe that you guys are not up to manipulating things? You wonder why nobody has faith in Turning Point anymore? It's because of stuff like this. It's because of stuff like this. How are you going to convince me that there's not something that we need to see when every single one of Charlie's dang takes was wide shot? But the one that you provided from that one that you was only concerned with that one camera's SD card is now cropped and zoomed in. I don't buy it. I don't buy it. And you couldn't pay me to buy it. Now, and this part right here, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to get into this part right here. This part right here, ladies and gentlemen. This part right here. I'm going to need y'all to put your thinking caps on, because this part right here is what I believe shuts down the entire case completely. Completely. This next part, I believe, shuts down this entire thing completely. You guys don't have to like what I'm about to say, but I do believe if you think of law enforcement investigation, you have to consider this next piece here, ladies and gentlemen, and that is them altering the scene and paving over the entire thing. Now, I'm sure you guys have heard some people talk about this, but let me explain to you why this stands out to me and is so inconsistent with how investigations work. But first, before I do that, why don't I tell you guys a quick story? A story about a man who was assassinated for nothing more than free speech. And at the end of the day, this man and all of everything he stood for decided that it would be best to go ahead and proceed with truth, going max, and ensuring that nobody gets to tell you when to stop, and that man was Charlie Kirk. Oh yeah, this was a true story, ladies and gentlemen. So one of the most influential men of our time was assassinated in broad daylight and taken away from us. And the bare minimum investigation, it just ruffles my feathers. It baffles me. It grinds my gear. It pisses me what the fuck I call off. Excuse me, ladies and gentlemen, but I cannot understand the straight buffoonery of this. Again, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to break this down for you guys because I know I keep doing this, but I have to share it with you guys. The state says that Charlie Kirk was shot, not Tripp. I'm not saying that. The state is saying that. The state alleges that Tyler Robinson took the shot with a 30-06 bolt-action rifle. I need you guys to keep your thinking caps on with me. This is what the state is alleging took place on September the 10th around 12:23 p.m. This is what the state is alleging. The state is alleging that. But here's what's funny to me. The state, nor the FBI, nor UVU ever recreated the scene. They never recreated the shot to get consistent verification and validation at UVU because no. I mean, actually on the ground, physically. They didn't recreate the scene there. This is what concerns me, ladies and gentlemen, because the scene was paved over. The scene was paved over. Now, why is that so important? The scene was paved over within a week. Is that correct? Within 1 week, the scene was paved over. Now, I'm not saying that they purposely did this to cover up. All I'm saying is that them paving over the scene within a week of the Big Bang is suspicious at best. They allege that a 30-06 bolt-action rifle was shot from the top of the, what was it? The Lucy Center? Lucy Center?
The Locy Center?
The Locy Center. I don't know why I always say Lucy. The Locy Center. A 30-06 bolt-action rifle was shot from the top of the Locy Center and took out Charlie Kirk. Now, if they are alleging that that actually happened, why did they not recreate that same exact scenario from the top of the Locy Center with ballistics gel and the best shooters known to mankind? You can bring in federal snipers, you can bring in army snipers, police snipers, and you're supposed to recreate the scene and retest it because you're alleging that this happened with this type of bullet, this type of gun, and only one round created this assassination. Again, this is why I am telling you guys early on, the state is going to have to prove that happened. Now, I don't see how they can prove that happened without recreating the scene. So when they paved over the scene, how is it that they could recreate the scene? How could they recreate the scene there on the ground if it was paved over? If you pave over the scene, now whoever is shooting at the top of the Locy Center is shooting from a different scene. So before any paving should have taken place, as this investigation and that area was completely perimetered off and cordoned off, there should have been shots taken from the top of the Locy Center to recreate that scene, to test and ensure that that was the case. In every single investigation I have ever been a part of and seen, you recreate the scene. Now, ladies and gentlemen, let me explain something better to you. When you are in a traffic accident and somebody dies in the traffic accident, be that accident is what I'm going with, not even done on purpose, but somebody dies in a car accident. It happens every day. The traffic officer that is specifically assigned to only investigate traffic accidents, maybe it's state patrol, maybe that department has an officer specifically assigned to recreate the scene. Right there. They recreate the scene as best as they can right there. So they cannot leave any stone unturned. This is why I have such a hard time believing that this took place the way that they say it did. Because they're telling us that it was paved over. They're not quiet about that. They do tell us it was paved over. There's public reports coming in that the campus scene was processed and later reopened. Okay. It was rapidly reopened. They dug up, what was it, an extra 10 inches of dirt around the entire thing? Well, that can only happen if there's any kind of residue. It's going to fall within 10 inches, of course. You dig all of that up, so there's no chance that there's any residue left over. Again, your basic level will tell you that. Andrew Wilson would say, how do you know they didn't? How do I know they didn't recreate the shot? Because they would have used that in their investigation or as part of their hearing as evidence that this was consistent with happening. That would have been part of the evidence that they presented, but they didn't. So I'm just saying, if they were, that would have been that right there. That right there. That's a great question. That right there would have been overwhelming evidence, because it wouldn't have even have had to been Tyler Robinson. They could have redid the scene, had a professional shot, or even a bore machine take that shot exactly the way that they said it happened. And if it did show wounds consistent with what they're saying happened, they could use that as evidence. But they didn't do that. They can't do that now. You can't go back and recreate the scene after you paved over it. It's too late to do that now. You can't. It's too late for that part now. Because while they didn't do that, while the state and the Fed did not do that, because there's no evidence record to show. And again, the prosecution, let me tell you right now, if the state would have done that, that would have been concrete evidence, man. Look, boom. I'm telling you it's done. But the fact that they didn't do that, and that we had every YouTuber and every person in Earth's history show how that didn't happen, and they use ballistics gel, they use ham hock, they use cow, they use everything known to mankind, and a 30-06 obliterated every single thing that it went through. Becca says, I wonder what happened if AI told to recreate it given the information available. What do you mean by that? Like, recreate the scene given the information available? Or recreate the scene and the shot given the information that's available, like a video. Ooh, I get what you're saying. You plug in the specifics of what the state is saying and see if it's even possible, like running an analysis, right? Ooh, we can do that this weekend. I think that'll be fun. Right. Say that. Becca just said something real good. Say that again, because that's really good. That's a really good point. Becca, if you could say that real quick so they can hear you. Okay, so, and you can even look at this back in okay, let's take back to Law and Order, ladies and gentlemen, or SVU, or even Star Trek. Even Star Trek. They take these things and they run an analysis in the computer. Hey, let's put in the parameters and run an analysis and run it again and again and again. And you see what I'm saying? And you try to figure it out. But that didn't happen. That's not the case. But I wonder if we did that same analysis based on what they presented, what we would come up with. And I think we should. I think we should. Not today, but I think we should, Becca, this weekend. And let's see what we come up with. Lunas Color says, even on forensic shows, they recreate the scene. I watched Charlie's shot live. There is no way it happened the way that they said it did. Exactly. We all watched it. And that's the part that I'm talking about. They're trying to convince us with people like Andrew Wilson and those paid influencers. I don't even get paid for I do this because it's the truth. All right. But they want to put these paid influencers out there and try to convince you and I that what we are seeing and hearing is wrong. Believe me, because trust me, bro. No. I'm sorry. You're not going to tell me that you paved over the entire scene before you did any kind of recreation of the scene, took any extra shots, because if you did that and it was consistent, you would use that. If you did that and it was consistent, you would use that. Here's the part that pissed me off with the whole Andrew Wilson thing. Now that, because you brought him up, Becca, and it really grinds my gears, because it makes me think of Andrew Wilson would say, well, how do you know they didn't? It goes back to Andrew Wilson questioning Candace Owens. Well, how did you know that they didn't question Erica? Because they would have fucking told us. If they were concerned about me saying they need to look into Erica, if they did, why wouldn't they say, yeah, Erica's already been questioned by law enforcement. She's been ruled out as a suspect. Okay. That's consistent with how the process worked. But that didn't happen. Instead, they wanted to send Andrew Wilson to go cry about it and then just made them look more guilty. That is what happened. We all seen it. Y'all can say what you want to say, but that is the truth. We seen it. They don't send this buffoon in here to try to convince us that what we seen and heard did not happen. To trust me, bro. Well, no. I'm not going to just trust you, bro, because first and foremost, everything that you guys are trying to produce is a lie. And I'm not on that. I watched the video. I seen it, and I said the first day, there's no way that was a 30-06. There's no way. Ray Charles could see that wasn't a 30-06. That is a deer hunting rifle. That would have took Charlie's entire head off. It would have blew him back and took his head off. But, it's okay. They want us to pull that same thing that Maxine Waters tried to tell us back when the fires were going on and Mexico was taking over LA. Do not believe what you are seeing. Believe what I'm trying to tell you. Believe what you are being told. No, I'm not believing what I'm being told. I'm believing that you can't recreate a scene after you pave it over and then try to tell me that is consistent, but they didn't even recreate the scene. So that's a whole nother, that's a whole nother thing. So again, I question it. If the scene was not recreated, they didn't take forensic analysis, a forensic shot, a bore sight machine to take the shot, because they can do that. It tells me that that's not what happened. They do say that there was projectile fragments, but they do not say that those projectile fragments were bullet fragments. They were just projectile fragments. That is a big difference, ladies and gentlemen, because those projectile fragments could be consistent with an explosive device. It might be consistent with the bullet. We don't know. We don't even know where Charlie's body is right now. The medical examination was rushed. The autopsy was rushed at best. At best, we can say these things were rushed. Evidence was clearly taken off and given to Erica right away. That's not consistent at best. But it's okay. They still want us to believe that a 30-06 is what could have caused Charlie's assassination. I'm sorry. I do not believe a 30-06 could have caused this. I just do not believe it. I don't. The wound is not consistent with the caliber of bullet they are saying and the weapon that they are saying did this. I'm sorry. It's not working for me. I'm not even sorry. Y'all just need to do better, because that's sad. You're going to sit there, we're going on a year, and y'all going to sit there and tell us to not believe what we just saw. And it's a damn shame. It is a damn shame. So, I want to know, do you guys truly believe that a trans furry lone gunman named Tyler Robinson took a shot from a 30-06 rifle, bolt action style, one shot and killed Charlie Kirk from the top of the Losi Center at Utah Valley University on September the 10th, 2025, around 12:23? Yeah, around 12:23 p.m. Do you guys believe that that is what happened? I really want to know in the comments. I want to know. Please let me know. Do you believe Charlie Kirk was shot by a lone gunman named Tyler Robinson by a 30-06 bullet or caliber rifle from the top of the Losi Center, escaped on foot, and then later turned himself in? Do you believe that? I'm not going to sit here and insult your intelligence today if you do. But damn. I'm just saying. But damn. The last piece I want to get into, ladies and gentlemen, which again, I believe I touched on it earlier, but I believe is a very, very crucial piece, just as crucial to the last thing I said that shuts this entire case down, seeing as how they couldn't recreate the scene since they covered it up. They literally covered it up. They paved over it. So they did literally cover it up. That's not me. They did that. But that is, why was evidence returned to the Turning Point family and Erica Kirk right away? That's something I believe needs to be questioned. What specific property was returned to Erica Kirk by which agency on what date? All of those are subject to disclosure if this trial goes through. The reason I say that is because of the chain of custody. We talked about that. Every single piece that was on that scene should be evidence. And that evidence is supposed to be evaluated by medical examiners. It should be also evaluated by the coroner, the state forensics investigative team, the NCIS super detailed, super six cool guy team, the freaking alleyway guy who comes out only once a year to look at a case and smoke a cigarette and say, I'm too old for this crud. You know, they bring out all those special people and they all get to look at the evidence and say, yes, this guy did it this way. And then they go through with the hearing, and then they go through with the trial. And after they do sentencing and all of that is complete, then, and only then, is the evidence, or should the evidence be returned. Now, if they are to put this guy to death, that's what they're pushing for, is what I'm hearing. They're pushing to put this guy either life in prison without parole or the death penalty, right? I believe that those are still the talks that's on the table. So if that is the case and death is what they go through, then that means that the evidence should be kept locked up, stored until death is complete. Now, you guys can fact check me if you would like to, but I do believe that that is the normal process when it comes to these things. Again, I can't say every single one size shoe fits all, but what is consistent with normal practice when it comes to a trial, sentencing, hearings, and stuff like that is the evidence is not returned until the completion. I just have never seen it. I worked as a bailiff on a sexual assault case while I was in the military. And every single piece of evidence was collected from every single person that was involved in this incident until completion. That's wild. So I couldn't imagine why they or what they would be doing. When I was working federal security at Boeing, even if it was a found bullet that we found on the ground, we would have to fill out a chain of custody form and do the entire evidence investigation, take the pictures, where it could have been shot from, why. We would have to do all of that. We would shut it down, recreate it from this point to this point, so we leave no stone unturned. That was basic security. We didn't even get the feds involved. And we would get shots taken all the time. This is why I say it's not consistent with how an investigation works. If I'm able to see that from a basic federal security aspect, then what is every other law enforcement seeing? That's the part I don't understand. That's the part I don't understand. All right. So again, I asked the question, if evidence was returned back to Turning Point or Erica Kirk, what agency returned the evidence and on what date? And what specifically was returned? That's what I want to know. I want to know that because I believe that these questions can help us in this case. What evidentiary personal property or a forensic copy is it available? Because if that's the case, the defense should have been notified or given access where that's required that, yes, this evidence was given back to said person on this date at this time. That's basic. It's basic. So where's the chain of custody when it comes to this? And why was these things not brought up in the preliminary hearing, even as far as the prosecution is concerned, that would or could hurt or support the case? I don't understand that. These are the things that I believe are not consistent and definitely should be questioned. You don't have to like my claim. You don't have to like my version of it. All I'm saying is that as I look through this, the evidence being returned right away is not consistent. Them paving over the crime scene without recreating the scene is not consistent. The injury that we all seen is not consistent with the 30-06 bolt action rifle. It's not consistent. So when you have multiple inconsistencies from the state, from the Fed, it leads us to question, are they doing and working in our best interest? When you see these things, it's hard for me to say yes. It's hard for me to say and believe in our institution, our feds and stuff like that, when this is the behavior and the action in which they are displaying. Again, these are not my things. This is what they are doing and have displayed and expecting us to take that as normal protocol. But we know better. There's a reason we have a chain of custody. It's there for a reason. There's a reason we cordon and secure a scene, and we don't let anybody into a scene that is not part of the investigation. That means Terrell Farnsworth, Andrew Colvett, Charlie, Erica, none of them are allowed to go start messing with the scene just because it's them. None of them. That includes the president. I'm sorry. I know you guys think the president can just do whatever he wants. I'm sorry, that is not the case. If for some reason the president happened to be driving by and that investigation was going, he can't just walk up on the investigation and start messing with stuff. That's not how these things work. Period. Period. A lot of people should be losing their jobs just for letting people within their cordon and perimeter. First and foremost, that's basic level security. Why are you letting anybody in your perimeter? And then when we have video evidence to support people are taking things out of the camera, putting it in their pocket, I'm sorry, but that is tampering with evidence on the scene of a crime. I can't see it any other way. It's hard for me to see it any other way. Now, again, I could be wrong. I'm not saying that that is what he did. Well, actually, no, I am saying that's what he did. I'm saying that those charges should be filed on him. I believe those charges should be at a minimum. at a minimum. But unfortunately, charges like that would hurt. That would hurt the case. That would hurt. I'm sorry. So as you guys are out there being influenced by social media influencers, the messaging out there, the narrative control and the campaigns, I need you guys to understand what you guys are seeing and hearing is true. Trust your intuition. Trust your gut. Because I promise you, the major political talking points that they're trying to push down your throat is not consistent with normal law enforcement investigative practices. All right. If you guys are worried about what to say, you can literally say that part right there. Well, these things at a minimum are not consistent with normal law enforcement investigative practices. That's probably a lot for you guys to say. So you guys can say, it just don't add up. It ain't adding up. It doesn't add up. But when I look at this from an investigative standpoint, these are the patterns and the things that I recognize. All right. This is why I run an Overwatch agency, because I want to look at the process. I want to look at the pattern. And that's what I do. Becca and I will look at, well, what is the normal protocol? So why is the Fed involved? Could it be because of this? Interesting. So this is how we do an investigation, ladies and gentlemen. You have to track, extract a timeline, listen to what the official statements are being presented versus what the influencers are saying. Because again, if the state is alleging that this action happened with this style of weapon at this time, there's a lot of questions that they need to ask for and prove. There's a lot of things that they're going to have to prove because everybody else is testing what they are saying and coming up with very different results. So either every single other person is failing in what they're doing and only the Fed is correct, which I find very, very suspect at best. At best. Either everybody else is wrong and only the Fed is correct, or maybe, just maybe, they might be working on a cover-up. I don't know. You guys get to be the judge, not me. I'm just here showing you guys how and what I see. And things that are not consistent, patterns start to, stand out. They do. So at the end of the day, trust your gut. Stick with truth. Remember, Christ is king and will always guide you and steer you towards the truth. My name is Trip. This has been a lot of fun, ladies and gentlemen. Again, you guys tap the screen. If you guys could hit that like button. I believe that there's a lot of good things that we discussed here tonight. But before we close, I want to leave you guys with something a little bit more positive, even though Charlie Kirk was taken from us. So, Becca and I had a conversation the other day, and she brought something to my attention that I believe, and I said it's kind of romantic. I believe it's kind of like a love story, but not in the love that you're thinking of, like boyfriend, girlfriend, husband, wife, romance type love, but like brotherly Jesus type love. Okay? Now hear me out before you guys disappear on me, but I believe if what they have told us is true, and Charlie Kirk knew and believed that they were going to take him out, but we find out later that there are individuals that are closest to Charlie Kirk saying to Candace Owens, it was supposed to be you. It was supposed to be you. Becca had a strange thought about this, and I really agree. Being as how close Charlie Kirk was with Candace Owens, could it be possible that he knew or caught wind that it was supposed to be Candace, and he purposely upped his rhetoric in public commentary, specifically going on the PBD podcast to say that Israel was going to ethnically cleanse Gaza, which is happening, and then to say publicly, and I'm leaving the pro-Israel cause, they've left me no choice. Could it be possible that he was purposely amplifying that to put the pressure on him instead of Candace Owens and Tucker Carlson, who might have been actually on the thing to take out? But because Charlie was the president and founder of such a big thing and then embarrassed him the way that they did, could it be possible? Could it be possible that he knew it was going to be Candace or Tucker, and he decided to amplify it himself and put the heat on him? It's just something to think about. Sacrifice himself for Candace. Why else would that individual say it was supposed to be you? Was there a plan? Was there a plan that you know of? It was supposed to be Candace. Why would you say that? Do you know of a plan? I really want to know. It was supposed to be you. There's obviously, you know something. So I think maybe Charlie caught wind. And I think maybe he sacrificed himself for the greater good. The reason I say that is because once he figured out that it was inevitable and going to happen, and then if he found out that it was supposed to be her, it was supposed to be Candace, like that dude said, maybe, just maybe, he amplified it and did that purposely to protect his people. Because now the cat's out of the bag and the world has been opened up. Eyes have been opened up bigger than I have ever seen before. And people are questioning the narrative. People are questioning foreign involvement. People are questioning things like, who the hell is Erica Kirk? Because none of us knew who she was before this. There are so many things that are inconsistent that we can go over back and forth with. But you guys know what you guys are seeing. And you know when something doesn't feel right. But when a man tells a woman, it was supposed to be you, right after the assassination of the best friend, and that never gets talked about again, that's kind of wild. It was supposed to be you, Candace. It was supposed to be you. That's the hardest part that I have ever had to deal with there. And when Becca brought that to my attention, I couldn't let it go. Charlie is gone, and I believe that he was a martyr, or he is a martyr now. But the world has been woken up to the truth. How this pedophile, cabal, elite, gross system is. How they view us as cattle. And ladies and gentlemen, Christ is king. We don't have to put up with it. The truth will be revealed. Jesus said, not me. Make this disclaimer real quick. Jesus said, I am the way, the life, and the truth. No one gets to the Father but through me. The truth shall set you free. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been a Trip Talk exclusive. I love you guys. I will see you guys in the not so distant future. Please take care. I'm going to get into the last comment real quick. Becca says, very few real men left, but Charlie Kirk was definitely one of them, and it would have taken a real man to do something like that. Amen. Absolutely. A real man would sacrifice himself in a situation like that. Not a fake man. A fake man would run from it. Luna's Color says, amen. Amen to you. Thank you. Bless you guys. Good night. I will see you guys here in the not so distant future. Again, make sure you guys share this video and all that good stuff. Let's help try to get some traction out there. If you guys are liking the content, what we're talking about, I will be back here in the not so distant future. But until then, take care, you guys.